Are we there yet?
Yeah, it's running now, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to begin by welcoming no members of the public and press who are watching this live stream of the meeting via the Fire Services YouTube page. Due to government guidance on social distancing, this meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the provisions set out in local authorities, police and crime panels regulations 2020. Minutes of the meeting will be produced in the usual manner. To enable this meeting to run in an orderly manner, I will ask all members to keep their video cameras switched on, except where you're having connection difficulties, and we understand that, and to keep their microphones muted, except when I invite them to speak. Officers will join us to introduce their reports in the usual way. Any member wishing to ask questions or make a comment should indicate this by using the raised hand function. If we run into any technical problems, then I'll ask for your patience. So far, we've been lucky on this account. We'll make a start by calling names of all members to establish your presence. Can I ask Tamar, please, to do the register?
Councillor Barbara Ashwood.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Simon Bywater.
Good afternoon, Present, Chairman.
Councillor Derek Giles.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Present.
Councillor
Present, Chairman.
We don't seem to have Councillor David over, no. Then we've got Councillor Kevin Reynolds.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Councillor Mike Shellens, no. And then Councillor Mandy Smith.
Present, Chairman.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for all attending. And it's particularly good to see you, Councillor Jamil. I hope you're feeling better after your recent illness.
I am. For some reason, I can't see myself on the camera, but I can see you all. So good for you.
That's absolutely fine. As long as you're on the mend, that's great news. Tamar, have we got any reported apologies?
No, I haven't received any apologies, reported apologies for Councillor Over or Councillor Shellens.
Right, okay then. Does any member at this stage wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? No. Okay, we'll move on then. We've been asked to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of December 2020 as a correct record. Can I ask any member who does not agree with this proposal to click the raised hand function on the screen now? No, thank you. So we'll take those minutes as approved, and I will sign them when the opportunity arises. Now, before we get into the main meeting, can I just confirm with everybody that you've all received a financial update that was circulated yesterday? Anybody not received it? No, that's good news, because we'll be referring to it later. Okay, then we'll go on to the next item, was Policy and Resources Committee Action Log. Let's find that. Is there anything to add to that, Deb? The action log? No.
I believe the ACFO might have a verbal update on the two actions.
Right, who's updating us, sorry?
That'd be me, Chairman.
Okay, yes, please, John, if you just do that for us.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, members. So the first one, a training centre review. The review of the shift system has been completed. The paper's been approved by the senior management team, and we're now moving into a process of negotiations with the fire brigade unit around the shift change. And regarding the incident command unit project, we have upgraded the software on the incident command unit at present to give us more time to look at options in terms of how we want to upgrade the rest of the systems. We think it's something we need to spend a bit more time on.
Okay, any members got any questions or seek any clarification on those 2 points raised by John? No, thank you for that, John. Let us move on then to the next item, which is minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 7th of January 2021. These minutes are only for noting, but there is an opportunity to ask a question or seek clarification if you need to do so. No. Okay. Right, now on to the main meat of the meeting, which is the relocation of Huntington Fire Station and Training Centre. Matthew, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. So you'll appreciate there's been quite a lot of toing and froing over the last few weeks. Really, I wanted to, in conjunction, in agreement with the chairman, to make sure that you understand what the final contract sum is, and you'll appreciate that there was an update sent around yesterday because there have been further changes over the last week. In terms of the background, I think we all know that this time last year, the Fire Authority and the chairman through his special powers approved the site at St John's. We moved forward with planning. We achieved planning in January, and then we've obviously been seeking ever since to get to a point where we've got a final contract sum. In terms of those figures, they have been changing. There's been some significant cost associated with drainage on the site. So one of the conditions, a significant condition that's been contained within the planning consent, is around us effectively regulating how the flow of our site, the water on our site, gets into the main drains in and around Huntington, to obviously prevent any further issues that perhaps downstream, should we say, excuse the term. But it has resulted in significant cost. I mean, we're looking at best part of £350,000 to effectively put a load of storage drains, if you like, on our site, and with those drains also comes extra groundwork, which obviously wasn't anticipated this time last year when we put the initial budget together. So, being blunt, we're not getting a lot for our money, but the reality is that it is a condition of planning. We won't get away without it. So we, unfortunately, it's a cost that I think certainly I'm going to recommend we have to bear, albeit it's extremely frustrating that as an authority we are going to have to bear that cost. Other additional costs, so there are some other planning conditions. So another one is around the noise of a standby generator. We have got to effectively, how should I put it, muzzle the generator to such an extent where the noise pollution is at an acceptable level. That's going to cost another £20,000. That's also detailed within the papers. Some other things are choices. So you'll see from the paper there is a choice there contained in the budget sum around sprinklers in the actual fire station facility itself. Now, clearly, as a strategic fire authority, we recommend to all businesses that are constructing a site of this size that we would hope that they would install sprinklers. So again, I'm recommending today that we do bear that cost, albeit not an insignificant one, because it isn't absolutely necessary. Let's be clear about that. But it's one that I feel reputationally the service should be leading the way. So that's included within the contract sum. Just moving down, so other options for us. So you'll see from the training centre element, so the training facility element, we have included in there additional functionality. So this is around things like when we're going in to do scenarios, we've got additional gas burners, I'll call them. So the actual scenarios that they're going through, they may move from a what will be a bedroom fire or a fire in a living room, and then they go up the stairs and there'll be things like a flashover for them. So it's all within one scenario, so it's much more lifelike. Now again, we can take some of those out, but the reality, if you want to put them in the future, it'll be more expensive than us doing it now. So there are options that again I've presented today, along with in terms of the training building, it is slightly bigger as well, again to allow for better scenarios for our firefighters, so that we're training them to the absolute optimum standards, particularly as we have a reduction in the number of fires, obviously operationally. So you'll see that there's been some savings. We have pushed back our cost consultant that's been working for us in terms of working with the developer. All of this has been through a robust, a very robust tender process. Obviously, I've summarised it for you as the strategic authority, but clearly, if members wanted to see the detail behind that process, I'd be more than happy to show you. Really, I think that's probably it in terms of the summary. You'll see that I sent an additional appendix, if you like, out yesterday, just to give members a heads up in terms of the movement over the last week. And then I'll go on to one other thing that I want to mention. So over the last week, the key things that have changed are effectively the tanks, or the additionality of the tank sizes. And in terms of building those tanks, there needs to be greater footing. So that's come in. And in addition, the noise pollution on the generator, which is the extra 120. So from the original paper I sent to that's where the additional cost burden has effectively come from. In addition, and again, just to make everybody aware, we had to do an archaeological survey on the site. So we did that. Councillor Smith is already smiling. So we started the survey at the start of last week. We had to dig seven trenches to see if there's anything there, and members will be pleased to know there was Roman artifacts found in every single hole that they dug. We are told that it is only of local significance, not regional or national. So that's hopefully a good thing but it is going to cause a delay. It is going to cause an additional delay to this project whilst we work through the archaeology. Easy for me to say. It's frustrating. I think we now need to work with our local authority colleagues, particularly the strategic planners at HDC, to work through how we can mitigate this, because clearly, as an authority, we need the training facility. Absolutely need this training facility. And in terms of additional cost, I want to keep that to an absolute minimum, because it will probably come at an additional cost, this archaeological survey or further survey. So clearly I want to keep those to a minimum, because I'm not sure that taxpayers of Cambridgeshire, we need to look at the significance of those findings. So I'll be certainly seeking some advice from Huntingtonshire, and hopefully you as fire authority members can help me with that in terms of contacts. And if you are on Huntingtonshire District Council, any of you, would be helpful perhaps for you to be involved, so all of us can work together to get this moved on. I think that's enough of an introduction. I'm happy to take questions on this final position. I suppose the final thing to add is if this is approved today, this is the final contract sum. So this will be locked down tomorrow, effectively, and that will be it. We'll hand over effectively to the developer, say that's all you're getting, now get on with it.
Thank you for that, Matthew. We've got a number of questions just popping up, so we'll deal with them first.
Yep.
I will start with Simon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman, and thanks, Matthew, for the presentation of the report. There's a couple of questions and some observations, really, so I'll go through them, and if you want to stop me, then please do. So the first one is in relation to, given what we've all witnessed in relation to flooding and stuff, like they talk about the drains, is there a maintenance cost going to be an annual cost for maintaining these drains that we're putting in? That's my first question. In relation to the sprinklers, yes, we need to practice what we preach. I think, it seems sensible. Heaven forbid if anything should happen, and it'd be rather embarrassing for the organisation that should anything happen to our training facility. So it seems to make perfect sense to me. although it is a bitter pill to swallow. I agree, the training facilities, we need to build the best we can. And if that means we need to increase the cost slightly to prevent us paying for more stuff further down the line, then that would seem to me to be the sensible approach. And then the final point is just in relation to 5.8 in the report, where we talk about the BREEAM standard. You talk the paybacks around the 5 to 9 years. Can we pin that down a little bit better? Because 5 to 9 years is almost a 50% different variance, really. So, can we not sort of tell how well that's going to pay us back for the 56 grand that it's going to cost us?
Yeah. So the key on the payback on that is actually how much electricity we use, Councillor Bywater, which is why it's arranged. So if we're using less, it will take longer to pay back, if that makes some sense. Whereas actually, if we use everything that we're generating at source, then in theory it pays back a lot quicker, which is why there is a range. But I can certainly go back and ask the energy consultant that's been doing it to say, can we be a bit more specific? Because if it is the 5 years, it's almost, well, let's get on with it, isn't it? I think that's the point.
Yeah, and it would just give me a bit more peace of mind, because it's a bit woolly, so to speak, really. So thanks.
That's fine. I'll go back to the energy consultant that's been doing the work on that and ask them for a more of a precise, if they can give a more of a precise figure. In terms of the drains, no. Once our big tanks are put in, then they shouldn't. We're being told they won't need any further maintenance.
Are you sure about that?
Because, well, let's hope so. They're great big plastic tanks. They are, so they, in terms of as long as the, if you like, the casing that's around them, they shouldn't rot. They shouldn't degrade. So in theory, certainly in the short term, there shouldn't be any maintenance cost of those.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Mandy, followed by Bill.
Thank you. I know this scheme's been a long while coming, and well done for getting it to here. We seem to have a lot of consultants involved. That's 2 so far. Cost consultant, energy consultant. I once did a review on consultants, and the council spent too much. So, how many more have we got?
Yeah, well, I suppose in a project of this nature, Councillor Smith, clearly we're not the experts, and actually what we're doing here is paying a quantity surveyor to ensure that actually what we're being presented with in terms of costs is legitimate. I've personally, I'm not an expert in the construction of a new fire station, so that's where we have to rely on these people. And you're right, it does come at a cost, but sometimes I believe that the cost in this sense is absolutely worth it. The energy consultant, that's part of the BREEAM standard that we have to comply with. So again, it's almost a necessity for us, albeit I get that it's a bitter pill to swallow. In terms of wider consultancy costs, we do keep those to an absolute minimum, Councillor Smith. And actually, in terms of the latest stats from an HMI perspective, I can demonstrate that publicly if need be for you, to actually tell you, actually, outside of this scheme, we do keep our costs down.
So the consultancy costs not part of the total costs?
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Where are they in
part of that bottom line cost that you've got?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in that bottom line cost. So if you look at on the table.
Right, so they're all okay. So that's part of that.
Where it says developer consultant fee, so that 1.2 million there, that takes account of every consultant, including our cost consultant.
I'm not going to repeat the amount. Clearly we will make sure we get value for money.
Yes, absolutely.
1.2 million. Right. Basically, who's actually overseeing this project?
So Artisan Developments, so they have a project management arm, and they effectively will be running the whole development for us, to making sure that all the subcontractors are managed. They're the ones that are effectively, we have our own project governance internally to make sure they're doing what they should be doing, but they are the experts and they're running it for us.
Yeah, because I gather we'll be having sort of meetings in between.
Yes.
There'll be meetings between the fire service and the contractors. Just
absolutely.
Everybody's happy.
And then, just on that, Councillor Smith, I'm talking to them a lot.
Right.
At the moment.
Okay, and I also have to ask, I hope this is never needed, but is there a contingency anywhere in that budget?
Yes, there is. It's already included within the budget that I've proposed today.
Which line is that on?
So in terms of the detail, that will be in the developer, where it says building and groundworks.
Right.
That's contained within that figure. There is a contingency, contingent sum.
Go on, how much?
Should there be? I'll have to get the actual number for you. Let me just get it for you.
Right, so basically, even with any contingency, any worst case scenario, that is the bottom figure.
Yes.
So you're not going to come back to a future meeting to ask for more money.
Not for every. The only thing
Sorry,
I
Sharon,
make.
I have to ask.
Yeah, it's absolutely the right question to ask. In terms of the building, absolutely not. In terms of the foundations, no. If I could lift the building up and shake it, I've got a sum in for everything that they're not paying for. We have a sum in for all the fixtures and fittings that we're going to put in, but I anticipate that we've got enough in that budget. So actually, I don't anticipate coming back for anything more on this budget.
Right. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Chairman, I had to ask.
No, thank you for those very useful questions.
Yeah.
Matthew, is it worth, before we move on to the next questions, very, very briefly, just remind members about the open book policy we've got? Contractors.
So with Artisan, it's completely open book. So they've actually already shown us all of the tenders. So again, going back to that Councillor Smith's point around, are we having regular meetings? They've shown us effectively the tender documentation that's gone out, the quotes that they've got in. They've gone for the most economically advantageous on pretty much everything, on every single quote. And actually, they've used their market knowledge to hopefully get the most attractive proposal that they can. So but it's open book. If anybody wants to see it, it's there. I clearly didn't think I'd want to present you with every single one of those today, but clearly if members are more interested, then they can certainly see that.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. Bill, followed by Barbara.
Yeah, first of all, Matthew, you didn't answer Mandy when she asked how much the contingency was.
Yeah, I was going to go and find it. That's why it was on another spreadsheet, Councillor Hunt. I'm just trying to find the spreadsheet.
Okay, well,
carry on, and I'll see if I can find it.
Am I right in assuming that the sprinkler system is 160 grand?
Correct.
Okay, and when you're talking about archaeological digs and things, they can sometimes get out of hand. And I've heard anecdotally of people who are representing a good cause, and the fire brigade is a good cause. If you just push back, because maybe there are some people in the archaeology people could well think Huntington is going to be rich pickings because it's been on the Great North Road for sort of 2,000 years. So, I mean, there's bound to be something Romans all around bloody Huntington, isn't there? So you want to, I think if you push back and just say, look, we're trying to keep people in Cambridgeshire alive and stop their buildings burning down, come on, back off. I think if you're a little bit aggressive, it might be useful.
Yeah, and I think I don't disagree. I think there's certainly a conversation that we need to have. Absolutely.
Because you'll be finding Roman stuff all over the place.
And what we've been told is if we were north of the site, there may be even more. So, and I think that's the reality. They knew there is a settlement somewhere in that area. Probably most of it actually is under a great big building at the moment. Probably, somewhere else on the site that was developed out many years ago when we didn't do archaeological surveys as we are now. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's a conversation for us to be having with the planners.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, did you wish to make a comment at this stage or wait till the end?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to come back on this costs thing and the question that was raised by Councillor Smith. I don't think we can 100% guarantee there won't not be any additional costs, because I think that wouldn't be right for us to do that. I think what we can guarantee is that we've done everything we can to identify what the cost will be, and we are very confident that there won't be any additional costs. However, if there are any additional costs, we will of course bring that back to members and raise it to your attention. I think it would be unwise of us to guarantee, because you can never guarantee these things.
Okay.
I mean, just following on that, what I'm saying is actually this contract sum is locked in. That's the point I'm making. So certainly in terms of what we know now, that sum is locked in. if I think what Chris is saying, if something completely left field comes out and takes us, but then obviously clearly we don't know about that now, do we? But hope, fingers crossed, we should have done everything. All the surveys that we have done, Councillor Smith, going back to the consultant fees, everything we've done to this point hopefully puts us in a position where we know as much as we can foreseeably know.
I prefer it if you put a guarantee in there. But, you know, I am living the real world, but I do have to ask.
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
it comes back, I will use my own magnifying glass.
Absolutely. I just think it would be wrong of us to guarantee something we can't 100% guarantee. I think that would be misleading.
The minutes will be suitably worded to keep both sides happy on that one. We understand what's being said. No doubt about that. Barbara, followed by Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. No questions, just comments. We are building a state-of-the-art facility. We shouldn't be cutting corners on finishing it off. We've got to give the training facility everything it needs to function properly and give our chaps the best chance they can to train thoroughly. And sprinkler system, there shouldn't be any question about whether we install that or not. You know, we have a duty to say to people, we've got one, we're asking you to do it. So I'm fully approve any extra money that Matthew's put on this. I think it's well worth it.
Thank you. Those comments are noted. Mike.
Chairman, I was a few moments late, so I'm not sure if my attendance has been officially recognised, but I am here.
Of course. How could we fail not to see you?
I won't answer that, Chairman. Like all the other speakers, I'm really pleased that we've got this going forward now on a, quotes, Matthew's fixed price contract. And I really look forward to it be coming into fruition. I am a little surprised that we've got sprinklers and archaeology, both of which I would have thought we could have known about, coming as late additions. It seems to me to be a surprise. And finally, in terms of maintenance of those big tanks, you might need to desludge them.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I mean, yeah, I suppose day-to-day maintenance, you know, on desludging. Hopefully, it'll be a very clean site, Councillor Shellens, and there won't be any sludge. But yes, appreciate that.
Yes,
that
hopefully you said, and
yes.
then you've got Mandy breathing down your neck when you spend sixpence.
Yeah.
No, I'm just merely asking a couple of questions. I'm not breathing down anybody's neck.
No. But I mean, clearly, yeah, day-to-day maintenance, and if we need to clean them out, fair enough. I think that the issue for me is more around actually would they need replacing or actually significant maintenance, and we don't believe so. So I think that's that point. In terms of the surprise, well, I suppose the surprise is the cost of the sprinkler system, because where we put sprinkler systems in our other sites or on our other sites, they haven't been anywhere near that cost. And part of that is because we put domestic sprinklers in other sites, whereas this one needs a commercial sprinkler, and also the water pressure isn't quite as great as we'd have anticipated in and around that area. So there are various challenges with regard to water per se, Councillor Shellens, on that site, which we were unforeseen. In terms of the archaeology, well, we've taken advice before. We did take advice early on, and the advice we got was actually that site, because they know there was a Roman settlement in and around the area, but they didn't anticipate it being there. What they seem to have found is some form of outhouse farm, and that's effectively what we're being told, which basically has stored some. It's animal bones, pottery, and crockery is what's been found. So they think it was some sort of outpost, which is probably outlying from the main settlement itself, unfortunately.
For people with COVID, presumably.
Who knows?
Right. Is there anything else, Mike?
No, that's it, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, well, as ever, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I think something we could all agree on. If we'd have been able to proceed 4 years ago, the cost, this would be finished and the cost will be significantly less. But that's history. We are where we are. We're going ahead. We're going to build this wonderful facility. it's well overdue. To be certain, in my mind, there were some questions about clarity of some of the budget areas. Is it possible, when accepting what you put to us today, that we can have some papers that are probably a bit more explicit in the different headings, like contingency and such like, so the new fire authority will know what they're dealing with, because clearly some of the members couldn't see the points of detail they were looking for. From my own perspective, I just want to confirm yet again that we've built this and future-proofed it. And by that, I mean, it's very flexible in its use. And I'm particularly seeking confirmation yet again that if need be, we could put a turntable ladder in that building. And everyone's nodding their head. I think that's a vital part that it's future-proof. That's very good. And finally, when we come to agreed recommendations, should we add to that that we've noted the late information on the archaeological dig, and there may be a cost implication unknown at this stage, just so whoever takes on this role in the next authority knows what we've considered and that area is still open. Would that seem reasonable from your perspective, Matthew?
Yeah, that sounds very sensible, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman.
Yes.
I feel it would be entirely appropriate to have your initial comments about the fact that if we'd been given permission 4 years ago, it would have all been done and dusted by now, formally in the minutes. I would like to see them in that.
Yeah, by all means, and I think they will be. I think we've mentioned it elsewhere, but yes, it's a statement of fact. Yeah, it's not. It's not.
I've noted that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, so we will draw this one to an end for today anyway. And what we've been asked to agree are the recommendations in the papers, and I'll go through them. Approve the proposal to invest in additional training equipment and renewable energy, noting the assumed payback period. Approve the additional cost for drainage on the site associated with planning consent. Approve the investment in a commercial sprinkler system. Approve the revised plans as they come attached to the papers. There's been some alterations in the plans. Approve the revised budget and funding proposal for the additional cost items. And finally, what I'm going to suggest we add into it, to note the update on historical artifacts found on the site and the possible implications for the overall budget. And that way, I think we've covered all bases. Would you all be happy to agree to those recommendations? Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. That's a sign of assent, so we will move on. We now go on to the work programme. Deb, can you update us on that, please?
Thank you, Chairman. All the meeting dates that were approved at the last Fire Authority meeting are on the work programme, but you'll see from the programme itself, only populated today's meeting and the one in June, at which point the new committee will decide what they would like to see on the programme in addition to routine monitoring and reporting.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's what we agreed a while ago, that we weren't going to load up the work programme for the new Fire Authority. They must make their own decisions on a way forward. So I think that's perfectly in order. Anybody on the committee got a contrary view to that? No. That's excellent. Right, okay. That's right, I'm juggling with so many screens here. The work programme being duly noted, the next meeting of the committee will be on the 16th of June. We'll have an entirely new Fire Authority then. So I'll declare the meeting closed, and in doing so, can I thank all members for their input and diligence over the last 4 years. the quality of the scrutiny, questions asked, observations and ideas put forward has been second to none. It's no secret it's been difficult at times through no fault of our own, but when we reflect, I believe we've achieved a lot, not least through our outstanding inspection result and finalising this project we've been talking about today. So thank you all very much for the work you've done over the 4 years. It's much appreciated. On that note, then, we'll sign off.
Chairman?
Yes, please, Councillor Jones.
I wouldn't like this fire authority to pass into history without recognising the excellent chairmanship that you have exercised for the duration of this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some very difficult decisions.
Yeah, we have.
And a particular point that I am very pleased about is that we have discussed them cross-party. We have never strayed into party politics. We've been dealing with sensible and serious subjects in a sensible and serious way, almost as if we were adults. I know that's a bit strong, but and that has been largely down to the fact of your very calm and sensible and level-headed chairmanship. And I think everybody owes you a great, and the people of Huntington owe you a great vote of thanks for that. So well done, thank you.
Well, yeah. Thank you. You're embarrassing me, guys. Thank you very much for that. I've set out my stall quite clearly that the fire authority should be run like a scrutiny committee, totally non-partisan. That way we can give the best benefit to the community. And I believe we've succeeded, and with the support of our officers who have been so professional, it's been a really great pleasure to work in this environment for all of us. No doubt we'll work together again soon. I hope so, whether it's local authority work or somewhere else. So anyway, take care, and I look forward to seeing you all again. God bless.
And you, Chairman, and you, and everybody. Bye.
Take care, everybody.
I'm off going out into the sunset.